Okay. Hi, everyone, and welcome to Circular Cities 2020. My name is Mahela, and I represent the Circular Economy Club Miami chapter. For those of you who are not familiar with the term, a circular economy is an economic system in which waste is eliminated through the continuous use of resources. The system is regenerative and it enables the preservation of natural resources. So therefore, a circular city is a city that embeds the principles of a circular economy, creating a system without waste. Circular Cities Week is an annual event organized by the Circular Economy Club, and it coincides with the United Nations World Cities Day, which is tomorrow. And the topic for today's webinar is how the circular economy can be used to build resilience in our cities in the south of Florida. So our moderator, Jesse, will take it from here and we'll introduce the panelists. So Jesse.
Thank you, Mahela, and thank you to everyone who's attending today. I want to first thank everyone who's helped put this event together as well. The Circular Economy Club of Miami chapter. Circular economy is all over the world, and we're lucky to have one that opened up in Miami last year under the guidance of Ofer and Jody and Mahela. It's really starting to build up around here, so everyone's taking notice of it. So it's great to have you guys here and to be a part of this event. I also want to thank USGBC for being a part of this, the City of Miami Beach, Coverings, etc., Miami Ironside for hosting us, and International Living Future Institutes, their Living Future Florida Collaborative, of which I'm a part of, as being a part of this as well and helping out with promoting this. So thank you all for attending today, and thank you all for being a part of this. I'd like to start by introducing our panelists as well. Ofer Mizrahi, he's the founder of Coverings, etc., and he's a visionary at Miami Ironside. He's built this great place. If you haven't been over to Miami Ironside, I've been there quite a few times. Love the place. It's an outdoor area of buildings, kind of a super block put together that just brings together retail and offices and restaurants and kind of event spaces. Kind of a great place where you can just walk around and get to know everybody in it's kind of almost like a little community in there, and I love it. And I got to know Ofer through the Living Future Florida Collaborative when he started coming and checking out some of the things that we're talking about building a regenerative world. And he's very into it, and we've talked about building a sustainability hub over there at Miami Ironside. So it's great to have him be a part of this and to have him on this panel to be able to speak today with everyone. I would also like to introduce Flavia Tonioli. She's the sustainability manager over at the City of Miami Beach. I've known her for a few years as well through my time with US Green Building Council, helping out there and doing events with her in the City of Miami Beach, as well as the Living Future Florida Collaborative, and through Spinnaker, and in all things sustainability. She's always got her finger on the pulse of it, and she's usually helping to drive it forward. So it's great to have her represent the City of Miami Beach and sustainability in general. So thank you, Flavia, for being here as well. And then I'd also like to introduce Barbara Garcia. I affectionately know her as Barbie Garcia, and so do a lot of her friends. I've known her for many years through the US Green Building Council, or USGBC as we call it, the Miami branch. She's been a great influence and like cheerleader of everything USGBC and sustainability in the sustainable built environment. She's the Miami market leader of USGBC Miami, right? And she also represents Orca as the regional sales director and sustainability specialist. The Orca equipment and their biodigesters is something really cool that I've seen go into quite a few facilities and kind of help reduce waste. So she'll be able to speak a lot more to that today. So thank you, Barbie, for being a part of this as well. All right. So yeah, let's get started. What we're going to do to give you kind of the format of everyone that's on this right now, to give you the format of how this panel discussion is going to go, is we've designed some questions based around Circular Cities Week and the circular economy title or focus of this event that Mahela introduced at the beginning, that we're going to be asking all the panelists here, because they all have a unique point of view, whether it's from the public spaces and working for cities and municipalities to private organizations, you know, that sell equipment and materials that help the environment, to nonprofits as well. So they all have a unique point of view, and we think they're all great panelists for this discussion. So I'll ask some questions to them. They'll have some time to respond about, we'd like it to keep it to 1 to 2 minutes because there's several questions we want to get and we want everyone to have a chance to answer. And then I encourage everyone who's attending online right now to actually ask questions in the chat. So go ahead and write up some questions that you think of as we go through this process, or anything that catches your eye or catches your attention while you're going through this presentation with us or this panel with us. And we'll try to fit them in at the end if we have enough time after asking the questions that we ask. And if not, we'll definitely forward these questions. And if you want to share any of your contact information and have that go directly to the panelists, and maybe you can connect with them. We are also going to put the panelists' contact information at the end so that everyone can reach out to them if you want to, you know, connect with them, follow up with them, potentially work with them. And then after this event's over, we're going to send out a thank you email with some follow-up information as well. So that way you can all stay engaged and you can ask your questions, or you can get involved or potentially collaborate with any of us, right? So I'd be remiss if I didn't mention where I come from as the moderator. As you know, my name is Jesse Rittenhouse, written on the screen there. I'm a sustainable building consultant with the Spinnaker Group. We do sustainable buildings throughout Florida, the United States, and even the world. We have projects all over, focusing on how to make the built environment more sustainable, more resilient, and regenerative. I also am the co-facilitator and ambassador for the Living Future Florida Collaborative, an organization that comes of volunteers that comes from the International Living Future Institute, that they focus on a really regenerative process of buildings that actually help the environment, that reduce waste to zero waste, zero water, you know, zero energy needs. You know, they produce and make their own energy and water. And so that's kind of what, you know, I represent, and I'm trying to help out and give my point of view as well. So yeah, that's who I am, and let's get going. So first question, I wanna say, beyond the current take, make, waste, extractive industrial model, a circular economy aims to redefine growth, focusing on positive society-wide benefits. It entails gradually decoupling economic activity from the consumption of finite resources and designing waste out of the system. Underpinned by a transition to renewable energy sources, the circular model builds economic, natural, and social capital for a more resilient city. How are you designing out waste and pollution, or how would you suggest that we design out waste and pollution in our cities? And I'd like to start with Flavia on this question.
Sure. Well, first of all, thank you so much for inviting me to be part of the panel. Super excited. Circularity is a topic that is very dear to me. I'm very passionate about it. So super excited to be here today. Yeah, the city of Miami Beach, we've been doing a lot of different things to support the circular economy and also designing out waste. Just to give you some examples of what we've been doing in terms of policies and programs. Back in 2016, it's when we really started a lot of those policies. But right now we have already many of them implemented. We have a citywide polystyrene ban, and also single-use plastic, steer and straw plastic ban citywide. So those were two big ordinances that, you know, we put it out there, a lot of outreach, mainly with restaurants, hotels in the city. And then along with that, we had several programs in order to help designing waste out, right? So for example, one of the programs we have in place right now is the Plastic Free Miami Beach, Plastic Free MB, how we call it. And it's a voluntary and free program that any business, any of our local businesses can join. And we provide them resources in order to, continue moving away from plastic. So there is different levels, and according to the level that you are, you achieve different certifications. And of course, the main goal is for, at some point, those businesses to become 100% plastic free and just be using reusables. And then on the construction side too, we have other ordinances. For example, our green building ordinance that all new construction over 7,000 square feet in Miami Beach is required to have LEED Gold or Living Building Challenge certifications. And the idea with that ordinance was to really create a new a whole new design of the city, right? It's a whole new generation of more sustainable, of more resilient buildings that would be looking at energy efficiency, water conservation, the reuse and recycling of materials. So those are just some of the examples. I know that we have only a few minutes to go through those questions. So, as the folks have any more questions, I'll be more than happy to go over other examples. Forgot a very big one that we just we just launched, our composting hub site. We have a new community composting in North Beach right now that we partner with Miami Beach Botanical Garden. And that's another great way for us to be designing out waste. So yeah, there are several programs and policies that we have, but those are just few examples of what we've been doing.
Wow, those sound like great programs. That's wonderful. And Barbie, what would you like to add to that?
Yeah, sure. So also thank you so much for having me on the panel. So as Jesse mentioned, I'm with Orca Food Digesters. It's a Canadian company. We're globally based. We're in a couple different markets and regions across the world, primarily in North America and Canada. But we have a digester that is an aerobic digester that uses oxygen, water, and microorganisms to basically break down material. So when we say material, this is organic material. So basically anything a human can eat, the Orca can eat. And so this is, I don't know if you want to go to the slide so we can give people a visual of what the machine looks like. So we have different sizes. So basically our goal is with Orca is to remove trucks off the road, which is huge. So here we have basically a technology and an option for a commercial kitchen to have the Orca in their space. So the microorganisms, they actually consume the organic material that goes into the Orca. And then through a process, it basically all goes down and nothing is left. All that's left is effluent, which then goes down the drain into the sewer system. So you're basically able to put in, we have different size machines. Our smallest machine consumes 15 pounds of organic waste per hour, and our largest machine consumes 100 pounds of waste per hour. So this is kind of our homage and our paying tribute to reducing emissions. That is huge for our company. Like I said, the amount of trucks that it takes just to take that organic waste and get it to where it needs to go, which is more than usually going to be the landfill. It's astronomical. So the savings alone that we get from just reducing in methane gas and greenhouse gas emissions is huge. In addition, it's a hyper local solution. So aside from removing, the external source of the trucks and everything, you're giving the power to the building or, to the operation, because let's just say with COVID or with a hurricane, maybe the garbage trucks can't get to where you are. Maybe they cannot help you discard of your waste. So the Orca solves a lot of issues, and it plays a huge role into the circular economy. I have a couple of things to add that you guys will hear about throughout some of these questions that will just play into how the Orca it really can provide an opportunity and give power to the operation, you know, because so many operations, you're at the will of your waste management company, you're at the will of water and sewer. You have to do everything they say. And at this level in the game, when you can give somebody the power to eliminate their waste, it's really big. So that's our biggest thing.
Excellent. That's very cool. I mean, that's something that maybe Flavia at the city, you've seen that in some of the projects going into some of the private projects going in there. Maybe it's something the city could team up with as well, or maybe in some other spaces like Miami Ironside, or if anyone else has something, a project of interest. That sounds like an interesting device to really reduce the actual waste, the organic waste that's going in or coming out of a project, right?
Yeah, and
I know that
it's versatile in size. Like I said, you know, some people are restricted in size, so we do have a smaller machine. So
for sure. And then the effluent that comes out of that, it's how clean is that effluent that's coming out of those machines there?
yeah, great question, Jesse. I mean, so a big thing with the effluent is it's a byproduct of whatever you're putting in the machine. So your effluent is only going to be as good as whatever the material is you're feeding the orca. We actually, interesting enough, have been working with University of South Florida. Their students are amazing champions. It's incredible what students can get done. Basically, about 2 years ago or so, they started trying to champion to get an orca on campus. They succeeded. They've had an orca for about a year, and now we are moving into a research phase with them where they will be taking the effluent, Jesse, and they will be examining the effluent to see what are the characteristics, what type of nutrients does it have, phosphorus, nitrogen, all these different things that play a huge role in obviously being able to reuse the effluent down the line and be able to close the loop. So Orca we are really, really into having as much research done to be able to continue closing the loop and providing an opportunity for our clients to go ahead and take that effluent and either turn it into fertilizer, or if it's going down the line to an anaerobic digester that it can produce electricity with it. So we are very much trying to do a lot of research to figure out exactly what is in our effluent or what needs to be done to it to optimize it so that it can be used.
Wonderful. No, that's great to know. And I'd be remiss if I didn't ask Flavia there, the
Yeah,
composting.
and this is a great slide, real quick. Just it
Sure.
does break down a little bit of what is in the effluent. So as you see, a majority of it is water, but then you have your minerals, your carbs, fats, and your proteins, which are really important. So these things go down the line to the sewer system, and I mean, we call it liquid gold. A lot of times they refer to that in the business. So.
Sounds good. No, it's great to see that businesses are coming up with new innovations in technology to help this along to reduce waste. And as on the same line of waste, of organic waste, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask Flavia here, on the composting side, what you guys are doing over the city, that you mentioned the composting that you're doing over there with the botanical garden. Is that just being used specifically in the botanical garden there, or do the people of the city of Miami Beach get a chance to actually take some of that compost home to use in their gardens?
Oh yeah, so there is the Miami Beach Botanical Garden. They have two sites, right? The one in South Beach where they actually have the botanical garden, and that one our residents have been using for many, many years already. And then yeah, they go there. There is a lot of volunteers. They get the chance to actually work with the soil afterwards. You know, whether they take home to use for more composting or for other uses. And in the North Beach one, we just started, it was like this month, that we launched it, the North Beach composting hub. But the idea is, one, it's open to all the community, so anybody can register, it's free. You know, they can go there and using the composting site. And then afterwards, with the soil, Miami Beach Botanical Garden is actually reusing that soil for all the composting, everything that they do. But the idea is for us to start doing events where we teach more to the community about what they can be doing, like, you know, with all the composting, with the soil, how that soil is used, so they can also take home and reuse it for other purposes. So
Wonderful. That's great. That's great. And Ofer, I'd like to ask you the same question that both Flavia and and Barbie have been answering. How are you designing out waste and pollution, or how would you suggest that we design out waste and pollution in our cities?
Yes, good morning. I think that the points here that I've mentioned are great because, first of all, if it comes from the municipality, they can make some ordinances and try to let's say have a site for composting or to make ordinance for no plastic. Then it goes, you know, more than that, and then you have like a great product like the Orca, which, you know, sounds great, but I don't know how it's possible maybe to work to put it into the building code, and that for the new buildings maybe then the ordinance should be any new construction to start with will have to have different systems, because what happened now, if you have from private homes to big apartment buildings that build big condos on the beach, all the waste getting hauled away to somewhere far away. Instead of that, if they have in the mechanical room where they have, it's going to be mandatory, so the building could be zero waste, because then if they have the organics, and it will be treated in a certain way. The gray water will be treated differently. And then there are other things that are recyclable. So one of the ideas that we're trying to push for and trying to get the movement, for example, all of us know that what we get to our homes today, it's like Amazon trucks coming with boxes and boxes every day. One of the things that we think should be happening, that the Amazon driver that brings the new boxes, to take the empty boxes away, and it's not to be on the city to start to have more and more trucks and more recycle bins to deal with these boxes. And that's, I think, because then we consume whatever we consume, and then the weight comes to the municipalities or the residents' shoulders to pay for this recycling. While somebody like Amazon, for example, making, I don't know, like 70 or 80 billion dollars in profit in a quarter. So that doesn't make sense. So I think that's some of the ordinances is supposed to be so. And, you know, as people, sometimes we get lost between the cities and the county and then the state. And then, you know, with all the politics, until you try to move something, then the people move away, and then you have to start from the beginning. So I think that's something that we need to worry about. Another example that we know, I know, I think more than 50% of any waste in any city is construction waste, from building sites, from renovations, from whatever. So many construction materials are not made to be reused again. The trend, especially in Europe now, you can see that companies have a responsibility to take back. IKEA, for example, now they say they will take back an old furniture. But what we're suggesting, for example, and what we're producing, so let's say glass reflects a huge problem because people don't know what to do with the glass waste. So there are several options. One option is to use or to produce new products with glass, like we're producing the bioglass, for example, that is building material countertops or slabs that are fully made from glass and glass only. When at the end of the life cycle of that, you can, or if you have waste, you just put it in a recycle bin, it can be recycled. You don't need the special treatment for that, because a lot of man-made materials have so much chemicals that you cannot recycle. All you have to do is just to put them in a landfill. Another option that I suggest, especially for the city of Miami Beach, in many places in the world, starting from boats to islands to other places, you live especially on the beach, you can take any type of glass and crush it, make it back to sand, and then just put it back on the beach. Because now, for example, on the shores of South Florida, because of the erosion, there are boats that go to Mexico to destroy another beach, to take the sand from there to bring it to us because we don't have the beach. So this is something that's very wrong, and the solution is so simple. If every building can have a machine in their waste room, process it, and then we can put thousands of tons of sand back to our beaches on a daily basis only from crushing the bottles of any type of glass that you have in every building. So this is some of the ideas that we can do. We should each building from even for the composting, we need to do it like Flavia said, education. So because composting is not complicated, everybody can do that. No need to haul it to the site in North Beach and then to haul it back. Everybody have their own waste that they can deal from private homes to buildings. So that's, I think, first of all, the step that they're doing is great. And we know the botanical gardens are great people. But the education to go to schools, kids, because the kids then pushing their parents, the same like, for example, that we see kids today pushing their parents to change their cars to Tesla because not to buy another car because Tesla is better. And the kids going to be the power to move all the adult people. So that's where I think that's where we all should focus as well.
Wonderful, wonderful. And I'd love to, I like seeing that you have these ideas moving in your head about how, you know, the companies themselves who produce the materials are also the ones that take it back. The take back programs are very important because a lot of times manufacturers, they're only focusing on production and getting it out the door to be sold. They don't care what happens to their product afterwards, after what its end of life use is going to be. So that's great that you're thinking about those things. And I remember once I had seen before that you had come up with a device, or you had purchased a device that actually kind of shredded up old cardboard boxes to reuse as packing materials, right? Kind of aerated them, kind of shredded them up a little bit. And you do still have that? Or are you still using that?
As well, we're using it at coverings, etc. We are collecting the cardboards that we're receiving on for other people and making a packaging material.
Nice.
But
nice.
you know, as I said, again, I think that the people that is especially, again, I'm going to this point, especially the Amazon that they deliver every day, they should use the truck to take back whatever the packages they delivered yesterday, the empty ones, to take it away.
Absolutely.
And that will be a great help for the recycling system, because you know, I see only from our household, they pick up the recycling in a big bin of recycling every week, and it just becomes sometimes just like overflowing, and you see the neighbors, it's just ridiculous. Yeah. So that's something I think that it's a quick fix, but that if you pass to, so if it will start even one city, and I'm a resident of Miami Beach, so that's why it's close to my heart there. I think if we can do it this quick fix, then if other cities will see that's the domino effect, everybody will go after. So if I can help, or we can help in any way, we're here for that.
That'd be a great idea. And Flavia, I wanted to move part of that question that Ofer brought up about actually crushing glass and turning it into sand for the beaches. Since you're in the city of Miami Beach, I'm sure you have a thought about that. I'm hoping that you have all of thought about this before and maybe had some ideas about it.
Yeah, so in relation to the beach, there is several regulations that we need to follow, right? And when it comes to the sand, it's not so easy. I mean, we would love to be testing several things, right? But pretty much just to give you an idea, when we are working with the beach nourishment, for example, like all the sand that we are putting in our beach, we are following regulations and working with several environmental agencies. So US Army Corps, Florida Department of Environmental Protection, and Miami-Dade County. So, you know, things like that, of course, we need studies, it needs to be proved and you know, approved by all those environmental agencies in order for us to be able to move towards that end, right? I think that I'm sure that those are things that they're looking into, because sand is something that it's becoming scarce, right? As we are looking for beach nourishment, it's becoming more and more difficult to find sand. So, you know, hopefully in the future is something that, you know, they're looking into. There is more studies proving it to be safe to be put in our beaches, and we can move forward towards that. And also, Ofer, about some of your points earlier on about us changing, you know, like the way that we design buildings. There is a lot that we have to follow according to the Florida Building Code as well. And it's very difficult for us to change the Florida Building Code. It takes many, many years. And that's why some of those things we try to address within our zoning code, like the green building ordinance that we have in place. But again, a lot we have to follow the state requirements.
Yeah, but
So I think
that's
it's
where
also keeping that in mind that, you know, there is a lot of things that unfortunately cities have their hands a little bit tight when it comes to, you know, preemptions that we have at the state level. For example, the plastic bag, right? I think almost every month I have folks reaching out and saying, why don't Miami Beach ban plastic bags? We would love to ban plastic bags, but we are preempted by the state by doing so. So I think that there is a lot of regulations at different levels that, you know, need to change. I think that, you know, hopefully now with all the conversations we're having towards climate change and sea level rise, you know, we see those changes. And of course, it depends on leadership, right? Whoever it's going to be, you know, the next president, the next governor, and so on. I think that will count a lot to how we shift towards that, you know, real circular economy.
yeah, we know, listen, the building codes and then everything is politics. We try to do different things and we hit the wall. Everything is politics, and that's sad because let's say if I compare Miami or Miami Beach, if there is any city that I can compare us to is Amsterdam in Holland. You know, when I go there and I see how quick they move and how they do things, you know, and it's in all aspects, because if number one, they live under, all the cities under the sea level, but how they do that for hundreds of years. And here I see how we are failing, and then I see the politics. But that's why I think we're talking, and we need to have a movement and need to push, because we are here to make a change. What we don't want is to follow, and, you know, yes, we need to follow the ordinances, but no, this is like, we're here to change it, to have future friendly to next generations. Otherwise, I don't know what's going to get left over here.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I think you bring a very important point too, for like now we have elections, right? And I think that for the people that are listening to us, it's so important to vote. Because if you look at any city, like any government, right? Like, for example, I'm going to give the example of Miami Beach, our hierarchical chart, right? We have the commission, our mayors, our commissioners, like all the elected officials. And then below them, we have the city manager, city clerk, city attorney. And above them, above the elected officials, who are the people, right? Those are the citizens. So every one of us, like all of us, we have a tremendous power of influence when we are voting, because, you know, you're mentioning it's very political. But when we are voting, when we are talking to our commissioners, you know, our mayors, like in different cities, when we are saying, look, these need to change, that's when change starts. You know, I saw that, for example, in the chat, I saw Mike Gibaldi, and Gibaldi is here with us today, and he's part of our sustainability committee. And he, for example, it's a resident that he has been able to drive change in Miami Beach, you know, drive policy. And it's because he has been part of a committee that, you know, has been like always talking to the commissioners and, you know, trying to drive change. So I think it's a very important note too, that people that are listening know that as citizens, we have a tremendous power in the politics. And, you know, that's why it's so important for us to, all of us, to vote if you have not yet done it. So.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But yeah, this is some great conversations that we're having here. I'm liking this whole back and forth. So, but let's move on to our next question here. There's some more good questions we want to get to before we run out of time. So, so another way that we can design out waste and pollution is to keep products and materials in use, right? I'd like to know, how are you working on this now, or how would you suggest that we keep products and materials in use in our cities instead of just throwing them away? Maybe I can start with you, Barbie, since Flavia got to go first.
Yeah, so I mean, a couple different things come to mind. As Jesse mentioned, I am part of USGBC and I am Miami's market leader. And with that just comes a lot of really awesome programs and just kind of strategies that have come out of like our amazing members that we have. Something specific that comes to mind is Cradle to Cradle. So it's interesting. I was watching a video recently, but you know, a circular economy is like Ofer was saying, we have to think about how things are designed on, you know, from their birth, right? And so instead of cradle to grave, cradle to cradle is just this. What Jesse is asking is how do we keep these materials in use? So USGBC has basically they have a couple of different programs, including the LEED building certification, which is huge, and it does cover materials within its concepts. But personally, the Cradle to Cradle program I think is amazing because it really kind of provides a platform for, be it a manufacturer or somebody who needs to purchase these materials, on all of the ways that they can continue to give life to these materials. So there's a lot of different things that come to mind. Glass is one of them in particular. I think that we need to redesign the way that we think about takeout and to go. I know that in this COVID world, everything is takeout and to go, and everybody wants you to do curbside, which is amazing and it's convenient. But like Flavia said, not every city has a styrofoam ban, you know, and even if they do, they may not be following it. So I think there needs to be more programs to incentivize, almost like what Ofer was saying, like a take back program, except it's a restaurant and they're going to take back your glass containers and they're going to go ahead and let you swap them out and take a different container the next time you come. Maybe you get some sort of incentive for that. You get a discount every month on what you're purchasing from them. So that model could go for, be it you're buying clothes from a clothing store or you're going to the grocery store. You know, I know Europe is very advanced in the sense of like more of a dispensary as far as of food. So you're bringing your container and you are dispensing the food into your container. You're not buying a new box of cereal every time you're not coming. You're not buying a new box of cookies. So like everything is there for you to be dispensed. So those are the kind of ideas that go through my head as far as what should be happening in our day-to-day communities, where we, like, the majority of our single-use items are coming from a sales transaction of some sort. So whenever you're buying a good, be it food, be it clothes, you're going to encounter those single-use items.
Excellent. That's some great ideas. And Flavia, could I ask you as well, how are you working on this now, or how would you suggest that we keep products and materials in use in our cities?
Yeah, so I mentioned earlier that, you know, the plastic free MB, like all the, you know, regulations we have in place, our composting program. Recycling is also the law in Miami Beach. Every resident has to have a recycling program. And we also have recycling for textiles and electronics. So, you know, we are really trying to create more programs that support the circularity. And in terms of internally, what we've been doing, we have a green procurement policy. So one of the things that we do, and this goes both, you know, internal for our own purchases as government, and also external for all the contractors that, you know, we get through bids and things like that. So we review every document that goes to for a bid process, for example. We review to try to incorporate environmentally preferred language, environmentally and socially preferred language, in order to, you know, make sure that we are tackling not only what we are doing, but also tackling the supply chain that we are dealing with and trying to make them more sustainable. So, you know, the green procurement program, I mean, so far has been very successful. I feel like, you know, it would be great if we could have more incentives at the state level. You know, a lot of folks like compare us to cities in Colorado and California, and, you know, ask why we don't have that many vendors selling certain products that have certain certifications here in Florida. And you know, a lot of that come from the incentives at the state level that they might have, or policies at the state level that they might have. So we're really trying to move forward, but I still see a challenge. Just to give an example, like when was it? I think it was a couple of years ago when we had a bid going out for the waterless clean cars, right? We wanted a company that would come clean cars, but really like waterless, like really using minimal water. And that was the whole idea, like all the products, you know, to have green seal, to have certain types of certifications that we put in the bid. And we end up that all the folks that bid for that process, for those services, they didn't have all the qualifications we were looking for. So it's, you know, sometimes you have to step back that, you know, we might not be there yet, right? Like maybe California and Colorado's other cities are, in order to get those services. And that, again, it didn't make economic sense for them to work with us and have all those requirements that we were requiring at that time. So, but I think that also comes not only with incentives and policies, but also with the customers, right? And us as residents, at what we are purchasing, what we are, and how we are purchasing things, if we, you know, what we are demanding from the products and services that we are purchasing. And little by little, we can start to change that. So mainly here in Florida, we start to see, you know, more of that, more of the certified products, more of the services that are following a sustainable supply chain, and so on.
And also, Jesse, if I can add on to that real quick, something I want to touch on earlier was just electronics. And like it's been said basically that it's kind of a dying breed as far as people who know how to do repairs on, be it an old cell phone, an old computer, you know, electronic devices, a little toy for your kid. My dad's an electrical engineer, so he's one of those few humans that enjoys taking things apart and figuring out, and he fixes them, you know. Or even an air conditioning unit that maybe someone comes and they think it's going to cost them $1,200, but it's actually a $12 compressor that is missing, you know. So one thing that comes to mind, and I know it's been done in other, like Flavia said, other places in the West, maybe like California, Colorado, but you provide education to, be it maybe low-income community that needs employment. You give them the job skills to be able to learn how to fix these things, and then you create like a program where residents can come and drop their stuff off. So instead of them going straight to the landfill or putting it out on the curb, they go to this facility where they can get their computer taken apart, and then this, hey, you didn't have to take it to the landfill, it works, and then maybe they can donate it at that point. They can get a credit to go buy something new. But that's the type of thing I think we're missing.
Yeah, and Barbie, that's such a great point, because in the past we tried to do repair workshops, right? And the feedback that we got from a lot of folks in the community was like, well, it cost me $10 to buy a new one of this. Like, why am I going to repair? And so, you know, it's that mentality too that I think, again, it's behavior change, right? It's us, the consumers, having that behavior change, and not just like, oh, I can buy a new one. It's because it's cheap, right? For us, we have many United States, I think that we have so much access to purchase things that we are not even thinking like, oh, I can reuse it, or I can donate, someone can reuse it. You know, it's like people are just throwing things away.
I agree. And I will say, I live in Broward now, and I have noticed that Broward does a pretty good job of like making it clear to people that your electronics do not belong in the landfill. Basically, like, you need to find another option. They need to go to a recycling center. I do think that the counties can do a better job of communicating where those centers are, you know, and like, because even me as a sustainability person, sometimes I'm like, I don't know where to take this. I don't know where I can recycle this. It gets very confusing. So Jesse, I know you have more questions, so I'll let you take over.
No, that's good. That's great feedback that you're all having there. And absolutely, we had generations of families that were just reusing materials. They would you'd inherit the sofa from your father, or you'd inherit a car from your grandfather, or things of that nature. We kept those materials in use. And so definitely, if you're going to go into that consumer culture where you're feeling like you don't want to repair it, or you don't want to keep using it, and you're going to have to replace it because it's much cheaper to replace it, at least donate those materials. Donate those items to someone who could use them. And there's definitely several programs out there of organizations that take in materials, whether it's clothing or electronics or whatever it may be, or old cars, and they use those to help those who don't have, because not everyone's fortunate to have. So I'd like to
work with the Miami Rescue Mission. So if anybody ever, they're great. They will come with their truck and pick their things up from you. So what Jesse's saying is very true.
That's great. Yeah, I donate to them as well. That's awesome. Yeah, and Ofer, I'd like to ask you the same question to give you some time on this. How are you working on this now, or how would you suggest that we keep products and materials in use in our cities?
Sure. So I would suggest, just to continue. And we know this issue of the use that you mentioned, Flavia mentioned, it's like something is cheap. So that's something that the world is trying to change today, because we got cheap because we have some cheap labor somewhere far away, and people losing their workers' rights or whatever because they work for nothing. So number one, that we can help, again, without going to politics. I saw some of the questions that are politics. We're trying to keep politics away. And another thing I want to say, we don't have to count on our politicians, whoever our opinions are. We need to do things ourselves. Also to vote, but also we need to do ourselves, because some people think that if they are voting to this or another, that's it, and they can do whatever they want. And also most of people likes to give kind of instructions what to do, but not in my backyard, as they say. In their home, they do whatever they want. So they play one thing outside, another thing inside. So we need to start with ourselves. So I think number one is to buy local. Buy local, so you support the local businesses. I know some businesses now that open, like to go to the old fashioned, there's like a nice business here of cobblers that open, because people just buy shoes and throw them away. They can fix the shoes. Most of the shoes are still good when you throw them away. And other things like that. So now if you go to the city side, if the city can give businesses that are doing this kind of jobs, either repairing or reusing local materials, maybe they can give them some discounts on taxes or things like that. So that will be like a nice incentive for this type of businesses. And now regarding the glass, for example, so one of the questions they ask, and I know that also Flavia mentioned it, if let's say the glass grinding, if you decided, because you have mixed glass, you cannot do anything other than that. This glass was, these machines, they're approved around the world for marine life. They're approved to use on yachts, in different islands where they have coral reefs or whatever. And that's again, you're trying to approve something like that. In the US, from my opinion, today, there's so much bureaucracy, and everybody, if you move from a city to the county or whatever, I'm sure you know better than me, but for the little that I know, and I see how commissioners works and how things, the politics is really horrible. And again, the idea is to start to demand these things, and we will get them. Now, as materials, yes, as we spoke, if we can choose materials, again, make an ordinance to see that some materials, either the manufacturers will take them back, or they're easy to reuse. So if it's glass, it's always, it's a pure material. You can grind it, you can redo it, you can melt it, or anything else. There are some technologies to use materials from demolition of old buildings to just reuse them to create new materials. So even the plastic bags that you say, oh, we cannot control because the state doesn't give us, if there are collection centers for any plastic bags, if the city really wants, there's also they need to help to do some small factories, because there are technologies that you can make products even from mixed plastics. Because one of the challenges in plastics is there are different types of plastics, and some plastics are harder or almost impossible to recycle or upcycle. But there are technologies today that you can make products from all of it. So that's what we call, and also in Europe, they call urban harvesting. You're harvesting the urban environment, and there is nothing that should go to the garbage unless it's very toxic, that need to be handled in a very special way, in, like, let's say, from hospitals or things like that. But anything else could be any type of waste, and could be, there is a use for that. So if the city or county, whoever really wants that, they need to make a task force to find or to consult with the right people that know there is a solution for any type of material. And I'll finish with one thing. Again, I go back to Amsterdam. There are people over there, there's a company that they go collect all the plastic from the canals, all the garbage, and they make beautiful furniture because they melt it in a certain way, and they create furniture, fabrics, everything from waste that they find in the canals and all the waterways. And, you know, because if we go to that, we know how we treat our waterways in our area, in Miami Beach or whatever, which is horrible from my opinion.
Absolutely. Yeah. A lot of great things to think about there. And I know you have some innovative work that you are doing actually with coverings, et cetera, as far as how you reuse the materials that you have, that you're able to collect, like as far as glass bottles is concerned. I've seen some of the beautiful tile work that you've put together, and I heard mention as well previously, another conversation that we had, that you've used like other old materials like terrazzo and even old airplane parts, if I remember correctly, right? You had an old airplane in your showroom there, that you've used some of the parts from those to turn it into other materials and kind of innovative products and materials there. I remember seeing some of that, and it was beautiful stuff. And there's a picture of it, a slide of it right now that Mahela pulled up for everyone to see, where you can see the glass bottle tiles and the layers in there, and stuff coming from old deconstructed buildings. Did you want to talk a little bit more about that, Ofer?
Sure. So these are two of the products. So the bioglass, basically it's a material that made of glass waste only, with no binders or no colors or anything else. So it's completely safe for everybody. And the designs are just like, you know, we're developing designs, and then we're looking for more and more resources. But the good thing about this product, that if you have waste during production or just the end of the life cycle, because also life cycle, when it brings us back, and, you know, in USGBC, it's a big thing, but I don't think the city is making a point. Because if you build a new condominium and you use cheap materials, because it's cheap, and you want to do cheap, you bring it from whatever, and then after a year or 2 or 5, you just need to renovate, and everything goes to the landfill. The building goes to the landfill twice, and that's something that's a problem. And if you use it, like say terrazzo will live out until you demolish the building, and you can see it. You know, it's a traditional material. You can see it in Europe, in the palazzos in Italy or whatever. You just can renew the material. You don't need to take it out because of wear and tear. So people today, when they renovate, they put any cheap material that comes from certain countries, and it's, you don't know what's inside. Then it goes to the landfill. So what does it help us? So cheap is not, you know, cheap is like for short term, but if you want to think about long term, and environmental is a long term, it's not from one day to another. I think we need to be more strict about that. So in this terrazzo, for example, that you see, the aggregates that are used inside are from demolished buildings. So the demolished buildings get, you know, things get separated. So steel go to a steel factory, glass to glass people, but concrete and any other hard surfaces or materials get crushed to different sizes and used to make, again, flooring and other products, which at the end of the life cycle of the building can be again crushed and reused again forever. Nothing will go to the landfill. Now we have, or we're working now also, on, as I mentioned, for, you know, the bioplastics as well. So that's plastics that different types to make different products out of it. But even, you know, it's the unbelievable that even from plastic, the thin plastic bags from Publix, let's say, you know, this thing, everything can go in. So you make a product out of it.
Nice.
Again, and for the, just to finish with the urban harvesting, I think that's something that the city have to fight for, because our waterways are disgusting.
Yeah, that's a good point. You know, urban harvesting is definitely something that not a lot of people think about, and it's there, it's everywhere. We have waste going out every single day, all day long in our urban environment, and we need to take care of that. So we're almost out of time here. So I want to leave it. I want to ask one final question and just give everyone 1 minute to answer, no more than 1 minute, just so we can keep in time. So the last question here is, one of the goals of this panel discussion is to help the Circular Economy Club engage citizens to design and implement a circular city and gather suggestions to create a global report gathering the top suggestions, right, from around the world. Since we discussed some of the ways to design for a circular economy in our cities, how do you suggest that we implement a circular city where we live? You've mentioned some of that, but summarize it real quick in 30 seconds to a minute, please. I'd like to start with Flavia.
I was so excited for the previous questions about the, you know, the natural things that we are doing, because we're doing a lot on green infrastructure in the city. But anyways, regarding that, I think it starts with ourselves, right? It's behavior change. I think a lot of us, we briefly talk about that, but it's just being conscious of, you know, what you are purchasing, the methods that you're using to purchase it. So look at the entire supply chain, right? And how sustainable it is in the long run for simple things like what you are eating, right? And what you are buying. Do we really need to buy it? Do you really need that? So every time, I think every time you're about to purchase something, just have that thought. Do I really need it? Or, you know, can I just work with what I have, or, you know, fix what I have? So I think having that mentality, it's definitely very important. I'm trying to think, and I think it's, you know, government, of course, we play a very significant role implementing policy and, you know, developing programs. But I think it really starts with ourselves, and the business too. I think when the consumers start to change and start to ask, you know, for that, when there is demand, right, we'll see the supply changing. So I think that once we start with that internal behavior change, and then we can see like all the chain starting to change to businesses, government, and so on. But it really starts with us. So.
Excellent. Wonderful. And Barbie, 30 seconds to you, please.
Yeah, sure. So just real quick, guys, I see some of the comments in the chat. USGBC Green Building Council is a great resource. Highly encourage you guys to look into the TRUE certification, which is basically a zero waste certification that anybody can get, anybody on this chat can get. They basically discuss a lot of what we talked here as far as how to eliminate waste from a building. Okay, so it goes by commodity, and you basically reduce what is being purchased for the entire building. You try to divert as much that is wasted as possible, so you give it a new life. So highly recommend that. If anybody wants to get involved with the U.S. Green Building Council, I see Lisette. That's a great idea about, we need more education. We need to educate the community on what is a circular economy, their carbon footprint. We love to write articles at USGBC. We love to talk to the media. So this is a great, I love this, Lisette. Feel free to reach out to me directly. But yes, I mentioned a lot of great ways to implement circularity in the city. So I think this was a great discussion, guys.
Thank you, Barbie. Thank you. And Ofer, ending with you, 30 seconds, please.
I think we need to, you know, everything at the end will come to education. If I need to, you know, if we need to push anything to, you know, to the younger generations, to the school, and I find it, and I can see it with my daughter, when the kids comes with all kind of this kind of demands to their parents, and that's the most powerful thing, because then they make us to do better things. So I definitely encourage you, Flavia, to continue with the education in Miami Beach. I encourage everybody. The education for the kids is the most important. So because then, again, the kids, time pass by, they grow with these ideas, and then they make everything much better. They will be the decision makers. They will do, because the existing decision makers were not going to change. They're going to think the same way. But so we need the new generation to know as much as possible, and I think then we'll have the best chance for improvement.
Yes. And
Thank
also
you.
one last thing, Jesse, is aside from like what you guys were saying about politically, is sustainability and all of these changes have always been driven by the people, by private citizens, private companies, like I mentioned earlier, students. So don't get wrapped up in politics, the election. Just know that there's all these people sitting on this panel today. No matter who is in office, we are all going to continue moving forward with our goals. So just keep your eye on the prize.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I want to respect everyone's time here. We're running a little over now. I'd like to end it here and let Miami Ironside or Circular Economy Club close things out. However, if anyone is willing and interested in staying on a little bit more, I know Flavio, you really wanted to answer our fourth question. Did anyone want to stay for a few more minutes and address that last question, or do you have to get running?
I could stay.
Ofer?
Yeah, I'm good.
Flavia?
Yeah, I can stay a few minutes. I just saw the time right now. I was like, I can't.
Yeah.
But I have other meetings. But yeah, no, I would love to highlight some of this stuff.
Okay,
here.
so just the last question, and if anyone wants to stay on, if anyone is not able to stay on, I'll let you know this whole session has been recorded, and we will send out the link to everyone afterwards so you can see this session as well if you have to get running. So the fourth and final question, an additional way that we can design out waste and pollution is to regenerate natural systems. How are you working on this now, or how would you suggest that we regenerate natural systems in our city? So go ahead, Flavia. I know you wanted to answer this.
So yeah, I think the city has been really prioritizing green infrastructure, right? I think many of you might have heard like how the city of Miami Beach is adapting towards climate change and sea level rise. So if you drive or walk or bike, whatever, through some of the areas in the city, you will see that we are literally like raising the roads, right? We're raising the city. All new construction now needs to be elevated. So we are raising everything. We're raising the seawalls, right? So along with that, we were like, all right, there is a lot of concrete here, right? There is a lot of gray infrastructure. How we bring green infrastructure into that. So we designed a blue-green infrastructure master plan. And the idea is that, you know, for all the construction that is going on in Miami Beach right now, we are looking at how we incorporate green and blue infrastructure into those projects. So for example, bioswales, like living shorelines. For every seawall that the city is building, we are looking at living shorelines opportunities. And then on the coast side, for example, we have a project with that we are looking at artificial reefs, but also reef restoration. And then that's a piece that I'm super interested in that. And another piece, going back to the construction projects, is that we are always looking into how can we incorporate urban forestry, right? Urban canopy into those projects. And we recently adopted our first urban forestry master plan. And we are super excited with this master plan because it looks at how we are going to be planting trees across the city with sea level rise, right? And in that plan, you see like the economic, the ecosystem benefits of different species of trees. So for example, everybody loves palms. I'm not a lover of palm tree because when you look at the ecosystem benefits of a palm tree, it's very minimum compared to a lot of the canopy trees, other canopies trees, and also in terms of resiliency, right? How those trees are resilient towards sea level rising and saltwater intrusion.
And the maintenance, right, Flavia?
And the maintenance, exactly. So we have all that information in our master plan, our first urban forestry master plan, and we are super excited to head into that direction. And you know, just building literally a greener city. So yeah, there is a lot more, but I know that we are out of time. So
no, that's great information. It's great to see that the city's stepping up and thinking about all these things. I mean, it's very important considering island life, right? Mm-hmm. So yeah, and Barbie, did you have a take on that as well that you'd like to answer?
So let's see. I mean, really as far as the Orca goes, you know, I already kind of mentioned, you know, how we're able to make the reduction in our greenhouse gas, which obviously is going to assist in regenerating our air and the local ecology, you know, within the community. And also, you know, just really important. A lot of people they don't realize how bad landfills are. I mean, it's people just, you put your stuff in the trash and it's gone and you don't think about it anymore. And the leachate that happens at the landfills, which is basically, you know, when it rains and all that rain takes all that toxic material and spreads it about literally into the soil, into the groundwater supply. So that's kind of where that's where we're trying to play our biggest part is, you know, reduce our landfills becoming bigger or becoming more landfills. The goal that's not what we want. We need to give our materials more opportunity for life. And then just really important, I know some people here mentioned the sewer system and stuff going to the ocean and whatnot. And 1,000%, as is mentioned by these panelists, Miami-Dade needs an extreme do-over on their sewer system. They're well aware of that. There is a lot of money that has been allocated in the past couple of years for that. And they are going little by little, but obviously the sewer system is extensive. So I think that also another way to assist with this, Jesse, is I think we need to maybe develop more infrastructure to be able to extract nutrients from the water, from the effluent, you know, downstream. So I think that we probably need a little bit more investment in some of our infrastructure, which the money is there, it's coming. But we need to be the voice and let our, you know, like Flavia says, whoever it is, the governor, your commissioner, we need to let them know that we want these things to happen in the community.
Wonderful, wonderful. And Ofer, do you have a take on how we can actually regenerate natural systems in our cities?
Yeah, so I agree. And I think one of the things that we need to push is, and again, let's say in Germany, for example, now landfill does not exist anymore. Right? Everything is getting recycled. So the technologies in the world are there. And the US is maybe the last, I don't know, like so behind, because landfills, if you drive on the turnpike, just becoming higher and higher. I agree about the greening the city, because we live in such a place that there's so much rain and we can make everything tropical. There is again a movement in the world that there's a concept of this Japanese architect called Akira Miyawaki. He builds mini forests on small areas. It's really, really great. I think the city must look into that because it's so easy to do it here. You just have to plant things right and everything grows. And they do it in the world because it starts to give green lungs. I believe that we need to let nature work for us because nature knows better than us. And again, another product for all the seawalls that we're building, there are technologies that call eco-concrete, that the seawall is designed in a way that they build like a reef. So they're encouraging sea life to live along whatever we build. Because now the building codes, the seawalls are just flat walls that don't encourage anything. Mm-hmm. And I can continue. There's like lists. There are so many technologies around the world. And I don't know how to convince. I know everybody's busy and sometimes day to day, and sometimes it's just to sit and think and invite people maybe from the communities to participate with the city or with the county or whatever in this in these things, I think people will be able to come up with great ideas. And again, if you are able or succeed to get the people involved with the decision making or with ideas, they'll feel more committed to all of that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. No, that's great. I think it's really interesting what we can do and what we can learn from nature and how we can incorporate that into our systems and our cities and our neighborhoods and even our own private homes, right? So there's a lot to learn here. There's a lot to unpack, definitely, in all these questions here. We could probably go on for another couple hours to answer all of them, but we won't. Instead, I think it's great that that all the panelists here have agreed to share their contact information at the end here and allow people to reach out to them if you have any more questions. The Circular Economy Club, this is one of their first events of the year, so it's great to have them be here in Miami. If you want to get more involved with them, that's another way. If you want to get involved in any of the nonprofits, the U.S. Green Building Council, that Barbie is a part of and that I help with sometimes too, and the Living Future Florida Collaborative that I'm involved in, or if you want to just be involved in your community, reach out to Flavia there, see how you can get involved in the government, the local government's initiatives, the sustainability committees, and everyone that's actually bringing a voice to the table. And that way we can continue these conversations and move this forward, you know, truly create a circular economy for Miami, for Miami-Dade County, for Miami Beach, for the cities that you live in, and make sure that we're wasting a lot less, or we're not wasting at all. We're getting a true circular economy. All right, so I want to thank you again, everyone who attended. Thank you to our great panelists here. Thank you, Flavia. Thank you, Barbie. Thank you, Ofer. This was wonderful. Thank you, Circular Economy Club, for putting this together, and Miami Ironside for hosting us. Thank you, Mahela, for getting us started here. And we're going to take all these questions that came in through the Q&A and through the chat box. We're going to save them, and we're going to send them out to the panelists and see what we can get answered for you as well. And stay in touch. Let's keep this conversation moving. Let's keep working on this. All right?
Thanks for having us, Jesse.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.